Don't mind the bangs because I tried to give Sophie Thatcher, and I'm just gonna keep it like that. A few days ago, I think it was Daily Mail, because when is it not a Daily Mail, released this article talking about how a homicide investigator ruled Kurt Cobain's suicide as a homicide. And oh my god, if you've ever been a Nirvana fan in your life, it is so impossible to escape this conspiracy theory that Courtney Love, the wife of Kurt Cobain and lead singer of band Hole, killed him. Can I admit something? For a tiny little while, keep in mind I was young, I was maybe around like 9 or 10, just getting into alternative music. I believed in the theory. And this is because that fuck-ass documentary, Soaked in Bleach. If you don't know what Soaked in Bleach is, first of all, don't watch it. Second of all, it's a documentary about the private investigator Tom Grant. And he was hired by Courtney Love to, I think, investigate something about Kurt Cobain at the time. Hi, editing. I'm pretty sure Kurt Cobain had mysteriously left rehab, and this is why he was hired to find him. However, this documentary came out to be really badly filmed. Not only were many people who were asked to do interviews have come out and stated that, one, their words were manipulated, but the audios were also heavily edited, meaning that a lot of them didn't actually believe that Kurt Cobain's death was a murder. This guy also believes that Tina Turner deserved to be abused. So he's not really a credible person as we know it. There's also been another story of how Courtney Love had tried to pay somebody to kill him for like $25,000. However, that video was also, I'm pretty sure, cleared to be fake, and said that the guy who said it was just trying to get his 15 minutes of fame because he was in a band that was not going anywhere, which all makes sense. And it's not that hard to hate Courtney Love. Do I stream live through this? I, being a person of color, I obviously don't like this girl, and she's been very transphobic in the past. So yeah, I don't think anyone should look at Courtney Love as an idol. The same can be said about Kurt Cobain. The same can be said about many male rock stars. And I think a lot of people who hate her for the wrong reasons. Many times, this is like a little side tangent rant here because this video is about how stupid you guys are and how Kurt Cobain literally had depression. There's so many double standards for male rock stars versus girl rock stars. Stuff like doing drugs and having kids and all of this. You know, if a male rock star gets 30 women pregnant, he's still expected to go on tour. If a female rock star gets pregnant, that's it. You have to retire now because you're a bad mom if you're still on the road. This is just one of many examples. Anytime something controversial happens, it's okay when a man does it, but it's so different when a female does it. And we see this outside of rock stars. We see it in just celebrities. Everything Taylor Swift has done, people fucking hate her, but then they'll praise like a male celebrity artist. I don't really like her because of what I just said, but she is a good musician. That you can't lie about. Maybe that's just me. I think Tom Grant really saw an opportunity to make money off of this mourning widow, and he really just went with it. Not only is this just a completely misogynistic way to go about your life, but it's very dismissive to Kurt Cobain and his obvious health problems, not only just physical, but like mentally. Literally, if you even just read one interview or look at a lyric of a song that he wrote, you will clearly see that this guy has been depressed. My credentials: I was heavily fixated on the band Nirvana for maybe throughout like the entirety of middle school and all of quarantine. To be honest, I got into alternative music because of Queen, because of Bohemian Rhapsody. So I was like, 8 years old at the time. In quarantine, I started to get into Nirvana, Metallica, a lot of like those bands. And to this day, I've never seen such a stupid conspiracy theory such as Courtney killed Kurt. It's just so dumb to me because not only were they in separate places at the time, but you can see that through the end of his life, she was threatening divorce. She was threatening to take his kid away from him. She was basically threatening to just leave his life forever if he didn't get clean. And not to mention that she held an intervention for him just so he could go to rehab. If you look at Kurt Cobain's childhood, and see that it wasn't very good, that he was getting kicked out of every household in his family. He was basically rejected. You can see why this guy would have depression, right? And you can see that, I don't know, maybe he has a song called I Hate Myself, I Don't Want to Die. Obviously, he's depressed. I feel like a lot of people make up these conspiracy theories because they don't want to accept that their favorite musicians have had mental health problems. And it's not uncommon to see this. For example, the same thing happened with Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell. There's this like conspiracy that they were making a documentary exposing a lot of the pedophilia inside of Hollywood. I'm not going to say anything about that because I don't know too much about it. And also, I don't want to be like, say anything that could be taken as the wrong way. But I do think that all three of these musicians were just heavily depressed and were addicted to drugs at one point in their life. And even though it was said that Kurt was clean prior to ending his life and he was focused on raising his daughter, he is an addict. And I please take this with a grain of salt. I'm not trying to be insulting, but usually addicts have to go through multiple relapses before they, are clean. And that's just what I've seen. And I think that's just knowing even a little bit of how addiction works, you will clearly see that it doesn't just end magically. And obviously not denying that this guy loved his daughter, because he obviously did, but he was depressed and he was an addict and he left rehab to go take his life. That to me, I think that's what makes me mad about all of this, because one, his daughter is still alive and people seem to be still very weird to her, but also it's very dismissive of everybody's health problems. Like, if you're gonna make a mockery out of one person, no matter if they're famous or not, it just feels like you're dismissing depression as a whole, which is why there's so much misinformation about it online. Kurt Cobain, not going to even lie, he contradicts himself all the time. It's not that uncommon to really hear of. The first thing I can think of is how he made up that whole story about how he got his first guitar. I read I actually have it right here. It's old, so don't mind this. This is by Charles Cross, and I would say that this book is probably more reliable than, what is that documentary called? Soaked in Bleach. In general, the whole thing is a bunch of made up crap, and it's just very weird. Just why would somebody go about making money like this in such a messed up way? And I think that his death is just something that should have been taken more seriously. And I say this with a lot of musicians. Making up conspiracy theories immediately after they die is probably super harmful to the rest of the fan base, but also their families. Like, their kids and their wives see this stuff online, and I think it's really weird. And mental health is very much real, and it takes a long time to get better. So just immediately dismissing this and be like, no way the guy who was hooked on heroin was depressed. There's no way this guy could have taken his life. Like, it sounds like bullshit to me. This guy had a lot of issues in his life, including getting famous like super fast. So it's not that crazy to say that he was probably just really helpless at the moment, and he thought that this solution would take care of a temporary problem. That's okay, all I wanted to say. We should be taking these things more seriously, and this guy got probably thousands of hundreds of teenagers into alternative music, and Smells Like Teen Spirit did have a huge impact on music. You can't really deny this. Yeah, it's really sad to see that people are talking about his death again. Y'all, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Bye.